Aston Martin DBX 2022. What we like. Stunning exterior silling. V8 engine is magnificent. Practical and spacious. What we don't. Busy, cluttered interior. Not as good to drive as the Lambo Urus. Shifting buttons almost out of reach. The world was ready for an Aston Martin SUV. Yes, by the time the Aston Martin DBX debuted, Bentley had given birth to the Bentayga, Lamborghini had sired the Urus, and even Rolls-Royce had realized its Cullinan. Still, the arrival of another super SUV is always a bit exciting. Would it be a true Aston Martin? How would it compare to its rivals, and is it even a good SUV? Well, that's what I wanted to know about Aston Martin's DBX anyway, and I found out, along with everything else you should know, from its performance to practicality in this review. Is there anything interesting about its design? 8/10. I'm not one to name drop, but I was having a chinwag with Marek, that's Marek Reichman, Aston Martin's Vice President and Chief Creative Officer, the fellow who has designed every Aston from the past 15 years, that Marek. Anyway, before the DBX came out, he told me any SUV he designed would be unmistakably an Aston Martin. I think he nailed it. The gaping Aston Martin grille is unmistakably the same as the DB11's, and the tailgate, which although is the back hatch to a large SUV, is absolutely the same as the rear end of the Vantage. Everything in between has all the family hallmarks. There are those oval headlights and the huge beak of a bonnet, the chiseled side panels with wheel arches that push up towards the sky, and those rear haunches. Not a fan of minimalist design? Then you'll love the DBX's cabin and its dashboard cluttered with dials, buttons, and switches. It's like the cockpit of a plane, and it's a very Aston Martin thing. Just look at the layout of the DB5 from the 1960s, it's a mess, a beautiful mess though. The same goes for current models such as the DB11, DBS and Vantage. Seriously, if there was one area where Marek may have decided not to make the DBX unmistakably Aston Martin, I wish it had been the interior. Still, I think the DBX has the best cabin design of any current Aston, with its large media screen built into the center console and more modern styling. But regardless of what it looks like, the feel of the materials is outstanding. There's a thick leather coating on just about every surface, apart from those which are solid, cold metal, like the paddle shifters and door handles. It's a plush, sporty place, like Batman's suit, only it smells a lot nicer. The DBX is a large SUV at 5,039 mm long, 2,220 mm wide with the mirrors unfurled, and 1,680 mm tall. Yep, this thing fills up an entire space in a car park. The DBX comes in a choice of 53 colors. Yes, 53. There's the Onyx Black my test car wore, but also Royal Indigo, Supernova Red and Kermit Green. Does it represent good value for the price? What features does it come with? 7/10. There is only one type of Aston Martin DBX, and it wears a list price of $357,000, so it resides in the price range above the Porsche Cayenne, which tops out at $336,100, but below the Lamborghini Urus, which starts at $390,000. The Bentley Bentayga V8 is its closest price rival, starting less than $10,000 higher than the DBX. And while we're marveling at the emergence of these super SUVs, don't discount the original luxury SUV brand. The Range Rover SV Autobiography Dynamic is $351,086, and superb. Let's take a look at the Aston Martin DBX's features. Coming standard is leather upholstery, heated front and rear seats, 3-zone climate control, a 10.25-inch media display with Sat-NAV, Apple CarPlay and digital radio, a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, a panoramic glass sunroof, power tailgate, proximity key with push-button start, LED headlights and tail lights, and 22-inch forged alloy wheels. For this high-end corner of the market, the value is good, but there are a couple of misses such as the lack of a head-up display and Android Auto isn't supported. But if you wanted a shopping trolley packed with value, you'd go to a supermarket, right? Maybe. What you really want to know is what it's like to drive, right? Let's start with horsepower. What are the key stats for the engine and transmission? 9/10. When it came to giving the DBX an engine, Aston Martin chose the same 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 that's in the Vantage, only they made it more powerful, 25 kilowatts more at 405 kilowatts, 542 HP. There's 15 nanometers more torque as well, at 700 nanometers. Shifting through a 9-speed automatic transmission, the DBX's 0 to 100 km per hour time is 4.5 seconds, which is almost a second slower than the Vantage's 3.6 seconds. That said, the DBX weighs more than 2.2 tons, has a maximum ground clearance of 190 mm, can wade rivers to a depth of 500 mm, and has a brake towing capacity of 2,700 kilograms. Oh yeah, and it's all-wheel drive. That engine is one of the world's best V8s. It's light, compact, efficient, and can produce enormous grunt. It's also made by Mercedes-Benz. Yup, it's the same M177, 4.0-liter V8 found in the Mercedes-AMG C63S and a stack of other AMG-badged beasties. There's just one thing: the V8 in the DBX doesn't sound as good to me as the one in a Mercedes-AMG. Aston's version has a less guttural and breathy exhaust note. Sure, it still sounds amazing, and when pushed hard it screams like Boudica charging into battle, but how often will you drive like that? Most of the time we're in traffic in the suburbs and city, trundling around at 40 km per hour. But even with the loud exhaust mode set, the note is still not as deep and brash as the AMG, which sounds delicious even at a standstill. You probably already know why Aston Martin uses Mercedes-Benz engines. But just in case, it's because the brand with the star has been a part owner since 2013. Aston saves money and in return gets some of the best engines in the world. What's it like to drive? 7/10. The DBX is a circa 550 horsepower giant that can reach out and almost touch 300 km per hour. But testing it on Sydney's roads is like having a champion racehorse in your backyard and your neighbor asking you what it's like to ride. A racetrack wasn't handy at the time, and I'd signed a form saying I'd not put any more than 400 km on the clock during its stay with me, which meant having to choose my test loop carefully. Fortunately, this was before Sydney was plunged into the current COVID lockdown, which makes that 400 km now seem vast. First, the DBX is an SUV anybody could drive, every day. Visibility is great and the ride is fine considering it rolls on 22-inch wheels and wears rubber as wide as some doorways and as thin as my socks, 285/40 front and 325/35 rear Pirelli Scorpion Zero. Power delivery is smooth and predictable. I did drive it every day, doing the shopping, school pickups, a trip to the garden center to fill it with plants and, compost, and it performed exactly as a large SUV should. A source of frustration was the location of the shifting buttons high on the dashboard. Have a look at the images. Even with my chimpanzee-like long arms I had to stretch to change from drive to reverse. And with a not-so-small turning circle of 12.4 m, 3-point turns were a bit of an arm workout. But the bigger frustration was the driver-car connection, which didn't feel quite right. A good car-driver connection is essential for any great performance car. Yes, there wasn't a race circuit where I could get to know the DBX quickly. But a good road, driven often with test cars, reveals a lot, too. And the DBX didn't feel as good as the Lamborghini Urus, which is not only more comfortable but feels more dynamic and offers a superb connection between the driver and the machine. The DBX is fast, it's powerful, the huge brakes pull it up quickly, almost violently so, if required, and handling is incredibly good. It's just that I didn't really feel a part of it much at all. You know, the whole driver and car becoming one thing. I felt like the third wheel on a date. That connected feeling has been mastered by Porsche with its SUVs, but I feel the DBX needs more work. It felt unfinished. I was told at the start that the DBX I was testing was a pre-production vehicle, but I'm sure that doesn't cover the shortcomings in the way it drove. It's disappointing. I was hoping for better, but I think further development will see that come later.